start with the hands behind. Moving the head. The stick behind. And then just behind the neck, let's just turn, twisting. And let's tip. Let's just lean forward. So trying to keep the back as straight as you can. And leaning forward. So sort of lead with your chin. That will help extend the spine as you lean. And then pull back. Just be careful. Just do a few to the corner. So turning towards the knee, then leaning over the knee. And back up and then the other knee. A couple more. Holding the stick at the end. You need a wide grip for this. And just letting it down behind you. Trying to keep the arms straight. Now let's just pull and push the stick. Pulling the hands apart. Trying to get activity into the sternum really, or underneath the sternum. Pushing. And pulling again. And pushing. Okay, so let's put that down. And now just trying the breathing, marking the breath with the movement of the arms. So getting it into the spine. So the spine is arching back. So this is like upper chest breathing. You're expanding across here. You look, and then you relax that, and then just pull the belly in, like you're pulling the belly in and pushing up inside to push the diaphragm up as high as it will go to get as much air out as possible. And then relax that, and then expand the upper chest and relax that, and then pull in the belly in and up and relax that. As you pull the belly in, you're working to exhale as much as possible, and then you relax that work phase. And then you work again to pull in as much air as possible. And then you relax that. And then tense the belly, pull the belly in and right up. And let it out. Then expand the chest. And then let that air come out. Now let's try a bit of reaching. Feel the shoulder blade pushing away from the spine. So the arm very much feels like it's coming from your back rather than your front. then reaching up. Okay. Now let's rub the hands and do the eyes. Yeah. I want to heat them up a little tiny bit. Then palming for a minute or so. And then the hands up, pointing the two fingers and out, and then glancing left and right. So keeping the head still, but looking down. left hand, and then the right. Left, right. Then the hands up. Come back down to prayer. Then the hands up and down, and the eyes follow. So trying to keep the head still. Eyes look up with the hands. Then the hands come down and pull the eyes with them. And then the hands up and out again. Keeping the head and the eyes ahead. Snake the hands and just be aware of the peripheral vision, the movement. And now that's just a few for the sphincters. So really tightening everything down there, pulling it in towards the dantian, and then releasing. Really screw the eyes up as well. So it's like all the ring muscles are tightening, and then you relax them. But let's try a bit of the butterfly. And then opening the legs. Legs straight. And then the kneeling. And then hands up and down into the fetus. And back up with the separating the feet a bit so you can sit down between the feet. And then just do it again. And now just a bit lying back and exercising the legs without the weight in them. So just cycle, just to get it going. Working the legs, but really just trying to get into these points in the groin, really loosen those pockets that you yield into. Try and straighten the leg. And then just a few, picking the cherries. So reaching up with the foot, but then reaching so much that it pulls that hip off the floor a bit. There's a sense that something in the hip sort of releases to get an added millimeter. And then just pulling the knees up and out. And then just straighten one of the legs and the knee that's up, just pull that up as high as you will come whilst you're really straightening the other leg. Swap opposites. And then swap them round. And then swap round again. And then one more. And then up into the squat. Up. Just feeling the dantian, the center of gravity. It's like our center of stillness. Just imagine you're moving really valuable bars gently, carefully. So my two legs have to grip the dantian the same way my arms would grip the bars. And then they gently move the dantian from side to side. And then just bringing the mind to the spirit. So the spirit will express in the empty side. So as I allow my weight to sink into this leg, this foot becomes active. It wants to pull my weight into it, and I just feel that spirit has got, it's got a sense of something outside, something beyond me has actually started pulling. So part of my mind is with the weight. So like my stillness, my still mind is with the weight, with my center of gravity, my dantian. But my active mind, my spirit, appears in the empty side, in the empty foot. Okay, so let's bring it to riding horse. So the knees opening so that these pockets in the groin open. Okay, let's try gathering gravity. So imagine the space you're in, a uniform field, like loads of arrows pointing downwards all around you. So you reach out and up and gather as big an armful of those arrows into yourself, into your spine, and then you want to direct them down. So the sacrum is difficult, but you get down to the sacrum, there's something in you has to wriggle to let that descending energy get across into the two legs. Yeah, so letting the one split into the two is not easy. So it needs a bit of a turn. So I pull these lines into me, and then I get down to here, and then something in me has to almost shake to split it into two and let it down the legs. So down, and then so you just wiggle your bum a little. So letting go at the sacrum is as difficult. back into riding horse. So just feel that. So it's like the back of the spine, then it has to leap across here. So it's really difficult because it's, we sink and sink and sink. We concentrate on the sinking all the time, so that and we want to feel that as this constant descending flow. Because what we're trying to do is support ourselves, to have the right strength from the ground, not just these stiff locked legs. My legs have to be constantly releasing. And then, so I then need enough experience, enough practice to know that the energy coming up will actually balance that. But it's difficult. It's like you've turned on the tap here and it's just pouring out down both legs. And our mind just wants to turn the tap off all the time to stop the flow, and just sort of stand as like a block supported by these two stiff legs. I'm wanting it to be constantly streaming. If I can get it streaming down, then it will start to stream up rather than it just being these two strong legs. Okay, now let's try just like pulling in the rope or the two circles or whatever, but feeling the shoulder blade reaching down the arm. I want to feel the mobile shoulder blade. Feel the intensification that's required to just let the shoulder blade come away from the spine and reach down the arm. Something in me has to get quite fierce. If I'm just using my hands, then I don't really need any spirit, or not, not a lot. But if I'm using the whole arm from the spine, then just to release it takes quite an effort. Yeah, so it's much easier when you just release one at a time. So it's like this hand catches something and holds on, and then the other arm can release from the spine. Yes, I'm really looking at it, because what I want is to be able to do this with the legs. So feel that my hips are just as mobile as my shoulder blades. And we just do the arm to start with. And now, pretty much the same thing, but now feeling it more here. So it's in the shoulder blades still, but so I really have to let my weight be supported by this leg. And then this hip will feel like it's coming up and out or down. I need to make sure that I'm well supported by the full leg. And just try and get the hip. Ugh, the hip has to rise up and sort of expand away from the sacrum. Back to riding horse. What tends to happen is we tend to feel the hip girdle as like a platform upon which the torso can settle. It's like one thing until we get to the hips, and then it splits into the two legs. So what we're trying to do is just split that hip girdle as well into left and right. So you can practice that when you're walking, yeah. So one leg is reaching out as the other one is supporting, and just feeling it coming from the sacrum rather than simply from the hip. As this, we're just trying to sort of anything that appears solid and certain, just trying to break it up really. But then that gets really difficult. We associate feeling good with things going our way. So when it seems that everything's under our control and everything's behaving, then we feel good. But that's often not when we're at our best. Got a student and he's 50, and he arrived on Thursday. And I was just sitting meditating as I normally do. And they just come in, and then I get up and we start working. But as he came in, I got a real shock because he just looked alive. Like he was just made of loads and loads of little bits, and they were just all behaving as one, like a swarm. That's a really useful image, the swarm of bees or the flock of birds. So, and I just said to him, I said, wow, your energy's great. And he just said, I knew you were going to say that because I've never felt so bad in all my life. And that's the thing. That's what makes it all so difficult. When you're at your best, you generally feel pretty wretched. That was just like his opinion. As soon as I said to him, well, yeah, but this, that, and then he felt good about it. It's like I gave him permission to feel good about feeling bad. And he was just, he was so single weighted. And now let's just try the two circles. And this feeling of, remember the two components of yielding, so getting behind the person with the arm and then bringing them in, but keeping a space open in the groin, because that's the hole that the person falls into. And so if I'm making circles with the arm, so when we're pulling in the rope, we're just sending the hand forwards and then pulling it in. So if I'm doing that, then my elbow is sort of contracting in. If I'm making circles, my elbow stays out in order to create the space inside. But it's the same as the knee. I send the hand out and the leg extends, and then the knee has to stay out or go out even more to create this roundness here. One of the things is just always delaying the weight transfer. So I'm turning here. So I'm sort of coming into this leg, but not too soon, because I want the space to be established first before I bring my weight into it. Because I want my weight to settle in the outside of the foot on the circumference so that the inside can remain soft and open. I'm yielding to the other person with my arm, but I'm yielding to the ground with my foot. And the yielding of the ground brings the energy up into my down chin. And now let's just move back and forth, again, pulling with the leg. So remember, I have to embrace whatever it is I'm yielding to. So a sense that part of me is getting behind it. So the leg has to round out in order to draw me into the foot. And then I can just send it back out the other hand. So it's outside edges, really. As soon as you start moving into the foot, you're swelling around the outside edge, which will express physically in the knee sort of rounding out. And then the other foot forwards. And pulling myself forwards. And then using the back leg to pull myself back. Trying a bit of this one. Just very loose in the legs, especially in the groin here. And then just the jog. And now, just stepping. So what we want to do again is feel those two components, the physical material, the weight. So we think of the weight. So if I want to step, I need to put my weight into one foot. But the spirit is just activity. Just think of it as activity. So what part of me becomes active? It's obviously the foot that needs to step. So I put my weight into this foot, and this can now free itself of weight. And the more it empties of weight and substance, the more it just becomes pure spirit. And then I can just place that wherever I like. And then we swap it around slowly. So this one starts pulling. So the weight starts moving into it. And as it does so, it becomes more and more full and more solid and more immobile. But the other one is gradually releasing its weight and becoming free and of spirit. Yeah, so just looking at the process of filling the leg and the process of emptying the other leg is quite different, especially emptying the leg, because we want to hold on to some of that fullness. So now this is empty, so I step back with it, and then I just pull myself across. It will naturally fill up, otherwise I'll fall down. But this one wants to hold on to some of its strength. So I just have to really let that flush out so that it can be, so I'm single weighted. And then I step back with that one. And again, I don't want the weight to start coming into it until it's on the ground. So this one's filling, this one's emptying. And then the empty one goes out. And slowly that one fills, but I have to really concentrate on the other one, just letting this one empty. And it's really difficult, because we just get sloppy. Yeah. Again, I don't want this area to sort of lock up and give me a false sense of stability. I have to let it stay loose at the sacrum so that this side can fill rather than stiffen. So I send the foot out and I pull, just trying to keep it relaxed across the sacrum. And then the single weightedness will be natural. Stay released here. And then as this one fills, this one will empty. let's just try squatting for a moment. Feeling the spread across the sacrum and the hips. Okay, and then back into riding horse. Yeah, so turning on the tap, which means releasing across here. So that it just feels that my legs are just two strong streams of water. Okay, now let's just lift the leg. The thing we need to be able to do easily for the Tai Chi is lift the foot as high as we can. You know, so this sense that it's flattening out the lower back and pulling my tail. So a sense that my sacrum and tail are sort of underneath the hip. Now that's really difficult because that's a completely different mind. It's a really sort of primitive mind, a mind that wants to just burrow into the ground. And so the more I can lift this knee, the more my tail will try and burrow down the leg and into the ground. So without this, then when you see the person's form, it always looks a little bit like it's floating. What do I have to do to get my tail to go down? I have to pull this knee up, and then it almost cranks this down the leg. And of course, I'd like to be able to do that without having to pull this up with the arm. So I sink into the leg or round the outside edge. I lift this foot up and then I just pull it just an inch or so higher, and that gets the sacrum just to go down a little bit more. So round the outside edge, lift the knee and pull it up and relax the sacrum down the leg. One more. Round the foot. Okay, great. So now let's just bring it back. Push the big toe down in order to get yourself into the outside edge. The other thing that we really need in the lower body is feet that are much more flexible. So that same student, the one who said he felt terrible, but he was actually in really good shape, he's been brought up in a kibbutz. He's not worn shoes for most of his life. And he can actually just crunch up his toes. He can pull his big toe under and dig it into the bubbling well. So he can sort of make a fist with his foot. And it just means that when he's standing on the ground like this, he's like a limpet. He's just sort of stuck himself on the ground because his toes can just wrap around and suck at the ground. Okay, let's bring the feet up. Pulling yourself down with the leg. is trying to be really active. Everything about me is active. So just spirit, you just become all spirit. You know, when they talk about, you know, the insight that you have when you're meditating, that the self doesn't exist. Basically, what we are, we're just a bundle of connections. That me, I don't actually exist as a thing. So each part of me is just trying to break out of its connections in order to make new ones. So it's almost like you're sort of wriggling in frustration almost. And the self, I mean, obviously we do have a self because we're not enlightened, but the self is just like a laziness. It's like, oh, it's like a refuge for my lazy mind. So, you know, what would you rather do? Rather come back to self or rather reach out and make a new connection?